today our presenter, which is Ann Lewis, and I will turn it over to her. I'm so excited about this though, because Ann, you are probably talking about two of the least done protocol areas in Globe, but also ones that are the most interesting to me personally, with the carbon and the soil. So not that I don't like the other ones, but there's just something about carbon. So I cannot wait to hear about what you're going to present. And so if you could introduce yourself and where you're from, and maybe kick it off with your favorite tree.
My favorite tree, absolutely. Thank you, Jen. And wow, I always like put you in the muck category, and now like I'm expanding your interest level. Yeah, I'm Ann Lewis. I'm from Pierce, South Dakota. I'm a partner here at a science center. My favorite tree, well, yeah, I would have to say several years ago, we were really, our science center, we were really bringing a lot of Leopold stuff online. So Darien and Wisconsin there. And so we planted a bur oak in our front yard, and I thought I would have just like nonstop leaves and acorns and twigs and to use as, you know, visual aids. However, the squirrels have had other ideas about the acorns. I have yet to get an acorn off that tree. Every spring they come out and they're like so cute, and they're gonna be little, and you know, and then I'm like, this is gonna be the year. This is the year. No, it's not. So anyway, hi Jody. So I was just sharing my favorite tree. That was the introduction question. And so maybe this will be the year. I don't know. So globe and soil health. Yes, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is going to be part presentation, part recruiting you all to help me stress test and do some things with this. So those of you who have been part of the Globe Partner Forum listserv over the last, I don't know, year and a half or so, have probably noticed I send out like these really random partner listserv emails asking, is anyone doing anything about soil health? And you know, there have been some gracious replies, but generally it's crickets, and understandably. Well, the reason for my interest is, first of all, we got a grant several years ago to do some education around the, well, then it was the 5 soil health principles. This is actually a graphic from the USDA Climate Hub, and I'm wondering if they're not going down to 4. And so basically, the USDA is very interested, mainly from an agricultural perspective, in the promotion and understanding and dissemination of soil health. And so it used to be 5, and that maximized biodiversity has been kind of lumped together with diversifying your crop rotation and integrating livestock. That's why you see the little icons of cows and plants. But the rest of these principles minimize disturbance, maximize living roots, maximize soil cover. This one used to be called cover crops, and cover crops kind of comes over into maximize soil cover as well. We're not going to do a deep dive into that, but just kind of orienting you to that. Is anybody familiar? Does anybody do soil health work? Mike, okay. All right. So we have this grant, and to specifically about curriculum alignment with the soil health buckets. And I apologize for the background here. Those of you who work with VOAG or your CTE ag teacher populations, you know, there's these soil health buckets are kind of big in that circle. And we were approached by the state NRCS saying, could we help them get it out to more science teachers? And so I am going to put into the chat a website that we have where we took the soil health buckets and we attempted to align them to NGSS as well as do some other things around them. So I put a link in the chat, and while you're getting there, I'll just orient you to the page. First is table of contents. Then I've broken up the soil health buckets into introduction of soils, soil health bucket tests, because this is all about going out and testing the soil, extending the soil learning, and then capstone and research projects. I integrated Globe where I could. If you see a protocol like here with lesson 11 that has an asterisk, that means there is a Globe protocol that aligns. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to just poke around, because I know that's what you're doing anyway, and I'm totally okay with that. So just go ahead and poke around this website. So any thoughts or top of mind noticings as you've been clicking around? See, Jen says, Tracy's comprehensive, impressed, very detailed. Web soil survey, yep. Yeah. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at the alignment to standards, and of course we have the language in there, how this doesn't, totally address the performance expectation of the standards, et cetera, et cetera. But there's not a lot in the NGSS about soil. It's kind of a hard fit. So one of the things we did was to develop some specific lessons that for science teachers. And we started with the focus on the soil respiration activity. Because that one was probably the easiest one to align. And so anyway, I'm going to walk you very quickly through the lesson that we developed with the soil respiration. So this is your obligatory overview of the materials and that you would need. And it starts out by taking a soil temperature. And this, of course, aligns so well with Globe. And I'll get to your question in a moment, Jen. And then you dig out your, as it turns out, 90 grams of soil, and you put it in the container that they give you. And you have this little, well, it looks like a little signposts. And it's a color reactor to CO2. And so you put it in your soil and you cap it up tightly and you leave it for 24 hours and you get the response 24 hours. It's sort of a color compare thing. Jen, how do the buckets lessons fit in with these grade level lessons? I'm not sure I'm following your thought, your questioning there. Do you want to just unmute and help me understand it?
Oh, well, you had lessons with the buckets, right? And then it said like kindergarten, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it was the buckets. And so I was just wondering if the bucket ones also kind of aligned with the grade level. I didn't have enough time probably to look, or if you already had that somewhere listed.
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't realize, I thought I had put a link to the soil, this page, as opposed to the full curriculum. No, these really don't have anything to do with the soil health buckets. These are their own units, essentially. So, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry, I just,
No, no, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, when you turn people loose on a website, you just never know where they're going to go or what they're going to see. So, good question. So, getting back to the soil carbon dioxide CO2 tester, is that this is what the color change is measuring, the level of CO2 biological respiration in the soil. And this is one, if you looked at the soil health buckets, this is its own bucket. But I decided to cherry pick this out and use this particular activity as a phenomenon to ask, where does the CO2 in the soil come from? And because of course the students will enjoy getting out and digging and measuring and seeing the color change. And then it's like, wait a second, where does it come from? You know, and hopefully the teachers are comfortable enough now using phenomenon to drive curiosity and lessons. So the next thing we do in the process of the lesson, in sort of the sequence of the lesson, is we watch this video to help them kind of say, all right, we're going to look underground to see for clues about where the CO2 could come from. And as you're watching, be thinking about, what do you notice and what are you wondering? So if I've shared my screen correctly, hopefully you'll be able to see and hear this video. Oops, sorry about that. It's very unfortunate that all these important little, things also are right near that icon that sends up distressing pop-ups. So if you don't hear this, somebody unmute and saying, I can't hear it, and I'll stop sharing my screen and reshare with the sound.
These towering Douglas firs depend on networks of tiny fungus for water and other nutrients. We typically see only the fungal fruits that poke above the soil, mushrooms. But a lot is happening under the surface. Let's dive below ground to take a closer look. Living fungal threads called hyphae connect the mushroom to an underground network of activity. Ants help maintain healthy soil, aerating the dirt, circulating water, and moving nutrients around. Tiny moss mites dine on miniature worms called nematodes. Nematodes consume single-celled amoebas, far smaller than our eyes can see. Amoebas devour even tinier bacteria. And bacteria also need to eat. They feed on the remains of previous generations of forest dwellers. In nature, nothing is wasted. The fungal hyphae decompose matter too, and we can follow them toward the roots of the Douglas fir. The fungus wraps around the root tip. Viewing a slice through the root, we see hyphae pushing into the spaces between the tree's cells. At the molecular scale, a chemical exchange takes place. The fungus supplies the tree with much-needed minerals, while the tree provides the fungus with energy-rich sugars. Nutrients for energy. A fair trade.
Okay. All right. So again, we're thinking about, where does the CO2 come from? Using information and ideas from the video, expand or refine your answer. to this question. So, just we're still a smallish group, I think. I have to see if anybody's joined us. Okay. What kinds of comments or thoughts or do you anticipate students or your teachers that you work with bringing forward about where's the CO2 based on that video? What are some sources for that? What are your ideas? What are your thoughts about that?
Decomposition.
Decomposition. Yep. What grade level? Oh, this would be middle school and high school. Respiration. Yep. And depending on the age of the student, they might talk about, the breathing of the insects and, as we do. But yeah, this would be the place. Oh, don't fail me now. There we go, where we bring in respiration and decomposition. So we're beginning to that the respiration of the organisms and the decomposition of the organic matter are what is producing the soil, CO2 in the soil. And I think it's important to point out, and this is something that is not often taught, especially at middle school, and perhaps even high school. I'm not as familiar with that, is that the idea that plant cells perform respiration with the oxygen in and the carbon dioxide out, like all living cells do. Of course, not with lungs and whatnot, but we focus so much on the photosynthesis, on the energy aspect of that, that the idea that plants are producing CO2 is kind of like, what? But, when they're not producing photosynthesis, when they're not engaging in photosynthesis and producing oxygen, you see CO2 levels in the winter rise strictly due to plant production. So that's something that I think would be kind of like one of those wow moments, or it would have been a wow moment for me. But anyway, so to help integrate that a little bit better and have students kind of work with this, I've created a version of the carbon cycle quest game that we've played within the carbon cycle learning materials. And it was sort of started like the Incredible Journey, where you had the stations and whatnot. Before that, you had the Choose Your Own Adventure as one of the carbon cycle learning materials. And I was reading through it, and there is soil organic matter, detritus, but what's lacking is the idea that within the soil structure itself, just like in the ocean, there is it's a sink, it's a pool of CO2, and I really wanted to elevate that and explain it more. So I modified this game to integrate that. So anyway, I'm going to put into the chat well, let me just first show you the game so that it's pretty self-explanatory. I think most of you should be familiar with it, but I'll just orient you to it. I have it. It's you have to do it in PowerPoint, so I have to switch over to my oops, please move this window away. All right, sorry. I have to switch over to my Edge browser. So anyway, so go ahead and slideshow beginning. Hopefully this works. Okay, accept and continue. All right. So this is the first page is are the instructions. And I've embedded an online dice roller over here. And you can see these are your stations, and they're pretty much the same as what we have in the game. But like I said, we've added soil structure. The directions are pretty similar, except, they're modified, of course, for online. What this means, no autonomy role directions. If you play Dungeons and Dragons or know someone who does, or something like that, I consulted with my in-house Dungeons and Dragons experts, which are my sons, saying, okay, I want a game, a dice game that middle school and high school students wouldn't automatically go, that. And so one of my sons said, well, the autonomy is really, the idea that you're creating your own, you're kind of, getting to make choices along the way is really one of the things he found most engaging. So I do have a version of instructions that where the first thing you do is you roll for autonomy. Can you pick from your options where you're going to go next, or are you going to go where the dice master, the dungeon master, sends you? And this, for D&D players, this will feel really familiar. But I decided I wasn't going to try to do that with teachers. So, I mean, D&D has been around long enough that I think some of them will have played, but I only played myself for the first time last Christmas. So anyway, it's pretty self-explanatory. You hit the dice. Okay, it tells you where to go, and then you go down here. And then you're gonna roll again. And actually, I think when you land, still hear me? Okay, I think it's picking up I didn't share for sound on this one. And then stay, etc., etc. Okay. I'm going to stop share. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of links to look at. The first one I'm going to pop in is the Carbon Cycle Quest Journal. Okay. And this is where you're going to keep track of your play. And you do need a Google account to open this, because it is set up for you to be able to fill it out. I have two versions of this game, pre-industrial and post-industrial. So let me go ahead and these you should probably open in Edge, because Chrome, it's just like, yeah, I got nothing. This is pre-industrial, and you can tell you're in the pre-industrial game because it will have a green edge around as a border of the game. And I'm going to hopefully send you to post-industrial. And I guess I probably should find a better term than post-industrial, because we're still sort of in the industrial age. So you can pick one of those. I don't expect you to play both of them. And I'll give you, I don't know, a few minutes to play the game, probably about 7 to 10 minutes. And fill it out as you go along, and we'll convene. And hopefully, if I've done this well, because I have not stress tested this with a group of people yet, is this telling us what we want it to tell us? Kinds of things. And feel free to unmute with questions if you have any. Okay, in our last few minutes here, let me see if I can find that. Totally have lost track of all my windows, and so if you've been using your Google Sheets that I shared, it should be auto-populating with the numbers and the names and everything like that. So we can just do a quick fill in of another spreadsheet. And I'll just share my screen to orient you to the spreadsheet and then put the link in the chat so that you can share. Okay. So anyway, in a moment, I will be sharing this with you. And basically, we'll use the post-industrial because I have the example on that one for some reason. Basically, you'll find your tab, pre-industrial or post-industrial, whichever one you were working on. And then add up for each pool how many times you visited it. Put your name in row 1, and then we'll kind of see what we've got. So let me go ahead and put this in the chat if I can find my chat.
And I apologize. I'm in the spreadsheet, so I'm on the post-industrial page. For each role, I should, where do I put the name of that or the number of the role?
You put the name.
Okay. Yeah, mine didn't count when I did that. Or is it supposed to total it as I work through my 10 roles?
Let me see. Do you want to share your screen?
Sure.
I'll stop sharing.
Is this what so I was going as I rolled. I started out in fossil fuels.
Right. All right. So yeah. So I'm sorry, and I did not explain that to you. The flux. Yeah, the flux, you would write down the flux because the pool is where you started. And then the flux is how you moved out of that pool in column B, in roll 1 in column B. So there would be a text that was highlighted in yellow, and you would put that in there. So it should be like stay, for example, if you got fossil fuels.
Oh, I'm sorry. So what I was doing, I was writing down where it took me. If I rolled a 1, it said go to atmosphere. So I put down atmosphere.
So
Not what was in highlighted in yellow.
Right. So the highlighted in yellow would go in the flux column. And I'm sorry, I just
It's my fault. I'm sure you said it.
No, I didn't. And then the atmosphere would be in the pool. So yep. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have spent more time on the directions on what to record when you were going to your different stations.
Does mine look right?
Mm-hmm. Hello, penguin. Shrew. Frog. Anyway,
Quick question. My school district primarily uses Chromebooks. Has this been tested on Google Slides and or PDF?
it has not. The challenge is that with the embedded online dice, it is because that is a whole website, actually, that Google Slides currently does not have that option, to embed a website into a slide. PowerPoint does, and I have not tried that in PDF. So it's worth it. I mean, this is very, very new. I'm still working out the, making sure that you see the desired differences between the pre-industrial and the post-industrial impacts of fossil fuels. And in this case, because we're dealing with soil and carbon, is that there is more disturbance of the soil and more releasing of CO2 from soil structure due to disturbance in the post-industrial. So we've kept the fossil fuel burning, but we've also added soil disturbance as a means of adding CO2 to the atmosphere. So anyway. So this was informative. So thank you for everybody who's contributed and provided. Oh, just no go for a PDF. Okay. All right. Well, I am sorry that it didn't work out quite the way I hoped. Still a lot of stress
cool.
testing to do, but the game itself will be available for if you want to print it out and buy 10-sided dice. So Jen, do you want to give another ad for Astra? No, Astra. I'll let you do it. Then you can close us out.
Did anybody have any final questions or comments for Anne? I know we're right at 5, but this is great. And
This is very cool.
I never even saw those buckets before, and I just sent it to Haley too, because this is great. It could be a great addition to the soil tents, to really integrate it into older grade levels too. So I'm super excited about this. Just the whole concept of the soil buckets goes with the soil tent. So if anybody doesn't know about the soil tent, I can put a link in there for that. Yeah, can you just tell us where the soil buckets can everybody get those? Are those ends? Did you say that those are with
The actual physical bucket, the supplies.
Did you put them together? Or
Are
they curriculum already in existence?
the lessons and whatnot is out there through USDA, a lot of VOAG, and I have it organized on my website. I've seen them around in a lot of different places. The actual supplies for the bucket, that's just wherever you can convince someone to give you money to get it.
Okay, this is really awesome. So definitely I'm going to look into this more, and everyone should contact Anne for more info for sure. So thank you very much, Anne, for sharing this resource with us. I think a lot of us who do soil, and this is really awesome. So thank you. And then everyone just remember, next week Astra Femina is presenting, so send it out to your network. All teachers are invited. Your entire network is invited. Great organization, and we hope to see you next Thursday. So thanks everyone.